I hope you are enjoying some of the sessions today. My name is Rebecca Shields. I'm the director of the Writing and Tutoring Center at Stanford's Online High School. And I'm delighted to introduce to you today Wanzhi Lee, who is going to be presenting insights from intersections, tutoring across the fields in an all-subject tutoring center. So I will hand the microphone over to Wanzhi, and we will get started.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Shields. Are you all able to hear me okay? Awesome. So I am trying to get through some technical difficulties right now, but I will get my slides up really quick and we can get started. You all let me know if you are able to see this. Awesome. So let me try presenting. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. So hopefully this will work for now, and let's get into the presentation. So hello all, welcome to Insights from Intersections, Tutoring Across Fields in an all-subject tutoring center. My name is Wanzhi. I am a peer tutor for Stanford Online High School, and I am super excited to get to talk with you all today. So this presentation is going to be a blend of school-wide research and individual tutor experiences that explore the interconnections between subjects and how drawing on those connections can enrich both the tutor and tutee's learning experiences. We will be examining how tutoring strategies involved in math, sciences, and other fields might overlap and support tutoring in the humanities, and share the impact that these connections have brought to our tutoring center as a community. So just to start off with some questions for tutors specifically, what subjects do you have confidence or experience tutoring in? And do you usually think about the tutoring process across subjects as similar or completely different? So feel free to put your answers in the chat or just think about them. We will return to the same questions at the end of the presentation to see if any of you have different or new opinions. So just a table of contents of what we will be talking about today. We will first have an introduction to what exactly is interdisciplinary tutoring. We will overview the school-based research that I conducted on its benefits. I will share some experiences and strategies from student peer tutors, which is probably going to be the core of this presentation. And lastly, we will talk about some further implementation strategies of interdisciplinary tutoring to create an overall better tutoring center. In this presentation, I will be taking interdisciplinary to mean both being a tutor across multiple subjects and making these mental interdisciplinary connections, and tutoring in subjects that might be inherently interdisciplinary. So no matter what field you tutor in or what your interests are, hopefully this will have a bit of something for everyone. These are 4 key features of what's involved in interdisciplinary tutoring. The first one is surpassing traditional subject boundaries. Students are encouraged to make connections between various fields of study and deepen their understanding of each field. Second is furthering problem-solving skills. By drawing on different areas of knowledge can give tutors more perspectives on innovative tutoring strategies. The third is building community. Tutors can connect to students of diverse interests and strengths by drawing on their own backgrounds and interests. And lastly is reflecting on communication. Writing is such an important link between almost every discipline. How can the way we write, read, and tutor be similar or be different across those disciplines? And how can we look at writing as a uniting factor? So just to recap tutoring at our school, we are an online high school composed of students from all over the world. And so our Writing and Tutoring Center offers course-specific tutoring in almost every subject and every course specifically. The center is open 7 days a week to accommodate as many time zones as possible, and students make virtual one-on-one appointments online with tutors. So far, we have around 150 student peer tutors, and 25% of tutors do it in two or more subjects, and even higher percentage in two or more courses within those subjects. I am a multi-subject tutor myself. I tutor in math, philosophy, and the languages. And this was what kind of sparked my interest in the topic. And so my research objective was to explore the benefits of interdisciplinary tutoring, whether already an existing trend or through new ways of implementation, all through tutor insight. A bit about my data collecting strategy. I sent surveys to and conducted interviews with our wonderful multi-subject peer tutors of our writing center, specifically asking them the questions I asked you in the beginning. What subjects do you tutor for? What strategies do you use? And have you found any intersections between those strategies? And the overall consensus was that yes, there was definitely overlap. And we will be looking specifically into several aspects of those overlaps. So I've organized our tutor responses that I've gathered into four main insights and strategies that we will be taking a look at. The first one is specifically targeted for languages, math, and science, although I'm sure you all will notice a lot of similarities with writing as well. This is a stepwise approach, as all of these subjects are quite methodological when whether we are working with a math or science problem or a question about translation. Tutoring often involves the common process of providing students with the tools they need to make their own conceptual connections. For instance, math tutoring might be allowing someone to talk through their solution to find a mistake, or pointing them to where they might look for a formula that will help them get started. On the other hand, language and translation could be providing the tools needed, such as vocabulary reminders or grammar rules, etc., for students to lead the translation. I've generalized the process into three key steps. The first step is kind of reassessing the situation. One might ask the student, what assignment or topic are you finding to be challenging? And can you walk through your process so far? Second is to reinforce their foundational knowledge and skills. One might ask what formulas, vocabularies, or theorems are needed to solve this problem. In the problem solving stage, students often have a firm grasp of memorizable concepts. They might just need help determining which specific concept to apply. In this case, prompting questions might be quite helpful. Instead of directly saying this formula is can be found here, one might ask what formula might do this and allow the student to make their own conceptual connections. Third is giving the student the confidence to take their next steps. One might ask, what is your goal for yourself or for this assignment, and how can we get there? Often, taking a step back and reverse outlining the problem solving process can be really helpful because it allows the student to really understand how to apply certain methods even when encountering different scenarios. We also have a special feature at the end of each tutoring session, which are client report forms, in which students get the or tutors get the opportunity to have a written recap of what we did in session, highlighting important concepts to be solidified and summarizing plans for continued practice, as well as words of encouragement to again build that confidence. I have some quotes that I found really helpful from student peer tutors. The biggest thing for me is that rather than giving someone the answer, finding a way to lead them to it. And another tutor similarly remarks, after all, being able to know or derive a method of problem solving is far more useful in the long run, especially as it can be generalized to any academic and thought intensive field. The next insight I want to talk about is flexibility in strategies through interdisciplinary experiences. A tutor insight that I found to be really helpful is that I think helping the student think about the content in a way that is most useful for them is best. And this is especially important when different students have vastly different ways of understanding concepts. Our pool of strategies, therefore, is greatly expanded when we think about collecting them across subjects. So here I just have a few anecdotes as an example. A tutor in languages might have encountered a tutee who was more familiar with STEM-based fields and preferred mathematical processes over straight-up memorization of words. In this case, a tutor presented challenging vocabulary and grammar constructions with equations, for instance, saying that a certain word root or stem plus a grammar ending equals a verb construction, and that kind of logical format really worked for the tutee. In other cases, tutees might find comparisons between ideas more useful than trying to connect the dots conceptually. In this case, it might be helpful to help tutees create lists or tables and have you talk through the similarities and differences between ideas to really draw out those clarifications for certain concepts. In this case, analogies that branch across subjects can be really helpful for understanding the material. As in other anecdote, I struggle a lot in the sciences, so I often go to my friend who is a biology tutor. We both have a shared love in the humanities, and so she would often explain chemical concepts such as atomic interactions with analogies of human interactions, and this really worked for me. So, overall, to summarize the process of analogies, it's kind of first starting with discovering the student's interests and then exploring what kind of analogies might be suitable to leave a lasting impression like it did for me. So, with so many strategies in the pool, how exactly do we know which approach to take? And I think in this case is when preliminary communication becomes really helpful. Getting to know the student's areas of strength and knowledge in order to find the strategy that best works for them. A tutor at the beginning of each session might take a moment and ask, what topics are you confident in, which are more of a struggle, and how can we directly draw from your areas of interest and confidence to bridge conceptual gaps. Another option is to prevent several strategies and have it be more of a choose your own adventure scenario. Students know how they learn best, and so a tutor might ask, here are some possibilities for what our session could look like. How do you prefer to learn? The third insight is enhancing tutoring in inherently interdisciplinary subjects. And for this, I have two case studies that I thought would serve as really interesting examples for what interdisciplinary subjects may compose of. And some of these were even surprising for myself. So let's take a look. For the first case study, we have a course titled History and Science and Philosophy. And this is a course that explores the history and philosophies of science as we know it, looking at historical theories and beliefs, the formulations of scientific knowledge, and everything accumulating in writing papers about these topics. So I personally am a tutor in this course, and I kind of identified several key skills that is involved in the tutoring process. The first is logical reasoning, which is something we might see more in math. There is the breadth and depth of understanding required for histories and sciences. There are critical thinking skills needed for philosophy. And at the core of it all, writing skills to express one's thinking in the clearest way possible and to effectively prove a point. All on their own, these may seem like pretty distinct areas of learning, but tying them together in a course and specifically tutoring in that course has showed me and other tutors the extensive connections between them. First of all, working through logic, which is seen more commonly in mathematical fields, enhances your reasoning and organization skills when building an essay. Similarly, the articulation skills needed for humanities writing and a firm grasp of the English language allows one to write more rigorous logical proofs with more clarity. And lastly, the ability to accurately define and explain concepts and events, which is needed in the histories and sciences, allows one to make a more convincing and effective argument in both humanities and math writing. The next topic, which surprised me a bit because I have absolutely no experience in it, is computer science. And this is perhaps a subject that we don't usually think of when we talk about tutoring centers. But from the tutors I talked to, this actually draws from a variety of skills across subjects. For instance, there is, again, logical reasoning, the ability to trace the step by step process that we see in math and philosophy. There is structuring and sequencing information, which we see a lot in English. There is problem solving, especially taking a larger problem and breaking it down to smaller counterparts, which we see often in science and math. And last but not least is the willingness to experiment. Often, the tutor doesn't know what a code would do, and the best you can do is just try it out and see what happens, which we see in science, but also just a sense of curiosity that extends across all subjects. So, of course, as you all know, there is a lot of overlap with math, so I won't go over that in detail. But what was surprising to me is that from what tutors have said, computer science is surprisingly similar to English, in which students bring in existing work, ask what they aren't sure about, and work through it with their tutor in a collaborative process. Writing code has been compared to developing a paper, where you ask your student these main questions. In order to make an overall point, what do you have to establish first? And how do you string it all into a coherent structure? Coding and paper writing have also similar revision processes. Code can be revised to read more clearly and efficiently by both people and the computer. And so, by working in computer science fields, tutors are kind of naturally building up these essential writing skills as well. So, we've looked at a variety of subjects, but now let's zoom in on tutoring and writing across all these different fields, especially how comparing tutoring methods also leads to really helpful distinctions in how we think about writing across different subjects. For example, tutoring for English is pretty similar to tutoring for philosophy, in that both tend to center around essay revision. However, with English papers, the focus is largely on language, the text, and original expression. We often look toward the way your point is expressed just as much as the content of the point itself. You are trying to engage the audience, explore nuances, and if you can, create something unique and true to yourself. Therefore, tutoring in the English may first and foremost encourage creative exploration of the topic, helps the student build confidence in their own ideas while still being open to suggestions, and focusing on more sentence level grammar edits as a last step. We often read someone's English paper from the mindset of a fellow writer, sharing advice for improvement while leaving as much room as possible for the student to take up the reins on where they want their paper to go. On the other hand, with philosophy writing, the emphasis is often on clarity and simplicity. Like English, both subjects encourage a depth of thinking and exploration of nuances. But the goal of philosophy papers is largely to make an argument as directly and convincingly as possible, which often requires a reduction of language. Therefore, when tutoring in philosophical writing, we often read papers from the mindset of a skeptical audience. We want to be convinced, but try to come up with constructive counterarguments that the student could integrate into their paper to make their argument overall stronger. Sentence level expression also becomes quite important in this case as we look at how logically points can fit with one another. And last but not least, with writing in the sciences and history, the goal is to give readers as factual and detailed account of information as possible, while avoiding bias and potentially tying together knowledge to form an original argument. When looking over science or history related writing, we adopt the mindset of someone eager to be informed about specific topics. And like philosophy, we look for clarity and precision, but now there is a lot more research involved. If we are well versed in the scientific or historical topic, we might be able to give advice on the content specifically. But even if we don't know much about the topic, we can still look at the piece of writing on the level of clarity and effective communication. So, after all that's been said, whether in the English department, history, philosophy, or the sciences, writing is a central skill required through them all. And when we put these skills side by side, we see that although they have distinctly different focuses, they ultimately come down to a very similar set of skills that are accessible to all writing tutors. So to talk a bit about implementation, I surveyed our tutors on how they think our writing center can be improved in regards to interdisciplinary tutoring. Peer tutors largely wish that there were more opportunities for interdisciplinary tutoring to happen. One student responded that they often draw off of what they learn in one subject and apply it to another, and therefore it might be interesting if there was some way to match up people who tutored in multiple subjects with people taking those multiple subjects to be able to relate back and forth. Peer tutors also suggested that they can engage in more collaborative activities and share strategies to foster a more interactive and supportive community, especially for online tutoring. Our center has write-in sessions for papers, but we might also schedule drop-ins for other subjects as well and hold them in the same space to promote interconnectivity. So, following these suggestions, we have been implementing weekly multi subject tutoring drop ins at our center, staffed by peer tutors offering assistance in math, sciences, as well as writing assignments alongside writing instructors. And from what I've seen in these sessions, even just by having multiple peer tutors for a subject in the same room has allowed us to talk through our tutoring strategies and experiences with one another. I'm wondering if we can have more events to facilitate this, especially the communication between tutors of different subjects. Often, when tutors or writing instructors are busy during these sessions, students who aren't necessarily peer tutors are led to help each other out, which really shows the collaborativeness of the tutoring process that isn't limited to official tutors themselves. We have also hosted midterm review sessions in collaboration with other peer tutors and clubs, extending tutoring in a broader scope. Making it a school wide event, I think, has made it a lot more accessible for students, and we hope to do more of that in the future. And so, just to summarize and wrap up, interdisciplinary teaching and learning is all around us, regardless of whether we are designated tutors for it or not. Just by being learners of a range of subjects, we are naturally pursuing the benefits of intersections. And so, to return to the opening questions with just a couple of tweaks, what subjects are you looking forward to gaining confidence or experience in through your tutoring community? And what are more ways in which we can take interdisciplinary tutoring to further or foster collaboration but, in order to diversify tutoring approaches? So thank you all for listening. This has been a very fun presentation to put together, and thank you to all of the wonderful peer tutors who contributed. My email is here if anyone has any other questions. But other than that, that will be it for my insight presentation.